the Palestinian issue is a primary concern to Saudi Arabia ahead of any normalization deal with Israel. This is all coming from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken as of Wednesday. He said that Saudi Arabia told the United States that a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a critical component of any possible deal. That's even though Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in recent months has insisted that the Palestinian cause is not as important to Saudi Arabia as many might believe, and that's not been a significant component of any normalization talks that Riyadh has held with Washington. Now, for so much more on this, we're joined in studio by our senior diplomatic correspondent, Owen Alterman. Saudi Arabia has held more or less the exact same position on Israel since 2002 when they came up with the Arab Peace Initiative. There must be a two-state solution. Why did anybody really think that Saudi Arabia was going to suddenly drop that out the window?
Well, look, Ariel, obviously, if you look at the narrower Saudi interests, right, and their priority here, the priority, of course, isn't the Palestinians. The priority is the deal with the United States. For that matter, the priority isn't necessarily even normalization with Israel, although that may be something that they want. I mean, in fairness to Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has come out and said that it's not a priority to them, the position clearly has shifted, right? I mean, going back to 2002, the position was no normalization until the conflict is essentially resolved, right? Until there's a full-fledged two-state solution. Now there is, by all accounts, much more flexibility, and the Saudis are willing to go to normalization for much less on the Palestinian issue. That said, look, we can have a debate about whether it is in principle or just in practice important to the Saudis, whether it's important to the Saudis or only important to Democrats in Congress or only important to the Biden administration. Be that all as it may, been putting this grand bargain together, I think the bottom line is clear. There has to be some Palestinian component, right? It won't work as a grand bargain without it. Okay, it won't satisfy Democrats. If it would satisfy the Saudis, it won't satisfy Democrats in Congress, who will need to approve, potentially, especially in the Senate, a deal with Saudi Arabia. And if it would have satisfied them, it wouldn't satisfy the Saudis. Point being, there will have to be some kind of Palestinian component. And you're right, Ariel, that's a snag because of the political situation here in Israel.
But it's just that the primary players in this are still the United States and Saudi Arabia, and it's almost as if both Israel and the Palestinian Authority are being sidelined in these negotiations because, well, both the Israeli government and much of the Palestinian leadership sees no desire for a two-state solution either.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, both sides, in a sense, are ancillary to the main part of the grand bargain between the United States and Saudi Arabia. But the Israeli engine is needed to get the train up the mountain, or so it's thought, because if the Saudis want a component from the United States that's going to take a two-thirds majority in the U.S. Senate, right, a kind of defense treaty, well, Saudi Arabia has not always been a particularly popular cause in Washington to be able to get to that kind of supermajority, especially heading into an election year. So the idea is that if there's an Israeli component, it will help it get through the Senate. But you also need the Palestinian component, right? Because for all of the support that Israel can generate in Capitol Hill, well, the Palestinians can now do the same, especially when you're talking about getting so many senators on board. That's why you need both of those as a part of this. By the way, it also may serve the Saudi interest as well, because to the extent that, in principle, in his heart of hearts, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wants open ties with Israel, right? The best way for him to do it and to be able to sell it to his public is as part of this grand bargain where he both gets important deliverables from the United States and also progress in the Palestinian track. That could help him market it internally as well, in the same way it can help the Biden administration market it internally for very different reasons to Republicans in the Senate and to Democrats in the Senate as well.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I guess the big question going forward for everyone is just because they have a framework doesn't necessarily mean that both sides are actually going to come to any
and that it can get through the Israeli Knesset for that matter.
That's going to be the challenge for everyone all around. Thank you very much, Owen Alterman, for understanding, well, what's going on behind the scenes there.